I was born in eastern Canada during the war. Father was in the RAF and stationed in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. I grew up in Toronto, and then my family moved to California and back to Canada. I spent many years traveling, and now I live in California again because I can get so much information so fast.
And your number one passion outside of changing the world and inspiring us all?
Well, I love to read, and I love my wife and children, so we spend a lot of time together. So I'm not working. I usually spend time with my family. I remember discovering something that was astonishing to me, and it was that your level of self-esteem or self-worth, your sense of personal value, the amount that you like yourself and respect yourself, determines the entire quality of your life. It determines the goals you set and how big they are. It determines how much you believe in yourself, which is how much you persist in your goals. It determines what you learn. It determines how much you like other people, how much they like you back. So the psychology of achievement is based around this concept that the more you do the things that make you feel good about yourself, which is setting goals, working toward them, treating people well, learning, taking good care of yourself, all the positive things that you do, raise your self-esteem, improve your self-image, improve the quality of your relationships with other people, and enable you to have a wonderful life. And that just set me off. I came from a poor background. My parents never had any money. They were working people. My father was a carpenter. My mother was a nurse. I left school without graduating. I worked at laboring jobs for several years. And then into sales when I could no longer find a laboring job like most people in sales today. And then I started asking a question which changed my life. And the question is, why is it that some people are more successful than others? Why is this? I looked around me and I saw people, now I was 23, 24, people younger than me doing better than me. And they weren't any smarter than me. And some of them were dumber. One of the things I say is nothing will make you madder than to see somebody who's dumber than you, who's doing better than you. And you say, how can this idiot be doing so well? And I began asking this question. In selling, I began asking, why is it that some salespeople are more successful than others? And I did something that very few people ever do, I found later. Because I went to the best salespeople and I said, how come you're so successful? And they told me what they were doing, and I did it. And I made more sales. And so people said, how come you're making so many sales? So I told them, and they did it, and their sales went up. And when I got into business, I asked managers, how do you manage in a business like this? How do you organize it? And they told me, and I did it. One of the greatest success principles that you'll ever find is learn from the experts. Learn from the people who are already demonstrating the results that you want to get. Read their books, listen to their programs, attend their courses, learn from, and ask them. And they will always tell you. And you can save yourself years of hard work by simply learning from people who've already learned it by themselves. Well, world-class people have a much bigger vision of what is possible for them. One of the techniques I learned many years ago from an expert was called X to 10X. X to 10X, which means imagine that you could go from X, your current income, to 10X, 10 times your current income. And your first response to that is that's completely preposterous. There's no way that I could increase my income 10 times. Yeah. It's not possible. So then I'll ask an audience, I'll say, well, is there any chance at all that you could increase your income by 10 times in the course of your lifetime? Is there maybe one chance in 1,000? Everybody will say, well, there's maybe one chance in 1,000. Okay, then I'll say, well, now how many people here from the time you took your first job until now have already doubled your income? Every hand goes up. Tripled, most hands go up. Quadrupled, lots of hands go up. I said, so you already doubled your income, tripled your income. So all you need to do now is do the same things that you did to double and triple your income, and you'll double and triple it again, and double and triple it again, and then you'll have increased your income 10 times. And there are people all over the world who are earning 10 times as much as you, and they're no better and no smarter than you are. And what this does is it explodes your thinking, because most of us begin to develop narrow thinking around our current income. And then we adjust our lives, we adjust our appetites, the restaurants we go to, the food we eat, the home we live in, the clothes we wear, the car we drive. We forced our whole world to fit into our current income. Whereas top people create a vision. Here's an interesting point. Peter Drucker said that if you do not have a vision to be a world leader when you start your business on your kitchen table, you'll probably never be very successful. So if you're starting your business on a kitchen table, imagine you could be a world leader. And then you ask the question, well, if I was the world leader in my field, how would I be different from today? How would my company be different from today? We were just talking earlier about Steve Jobs and Apple Computer. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started out in a garage with an idea to put together pieces and make a little Apple computer that people could have at home. Bill Gates of Microsoft started off with this idea that if they could make it usable, you could have a PC on every desktop. Everyone's heard about that. That was his vision, a PC on every desktop in the world. When he said this in the late 70s, everybody said he must be crazy. The heads of the IBM were saying, there's no reason for anyone to have a computer at home. There's no reason for anyone to have a personal computer. And within a couple of years, they were literally avalanched out of the business because you find that everybody wanted a personal computer. The only question was the technology to build it and the programs to operate. Today, if you don't have a computer, you're living in the Stone Ages. Well, your telephone is a computer. You have an iPad, you have a computer at home. So you start thinking of, if your business was world class, if you were world class, how would you be different from today? And then here's the key. This is the key. Take the first step. The first step is always the hardest step because it forces you, like a chick breaking out of an egg when it hatches. The first step forces you to break out of your comfort zone. And the comfort zone is so strong that probably 90% of people are held back from their full potential all their lives because of this vice-like comfort zone. And when you take the first step, the only way you can do it is break out. Suddenly you see the second step and the third step and the fourth step. And then as you take the steps, your self-esteem goes up and your self-confidence goes up and you become more creative and you start to think of all kinds of ideas and people say, what has gotten into you? I mean, what are you smoking? Because whatever it is, you should share it with the others. And so this is the difference between top people. Have a big idea of what's possible and then take the first step. What I do is this, I take out my magic wand and I'll do this with every audience. I'll say the key to success is what is called future orientation. That means top people, top 10% of people think about the future most of the time. They think about the future most of the time and they practice a concept used by top people called idealization. They idealize, they imagine they have no limitations, and they imagine you could wave a magic wand and make your future perfect in every way. So we say there's 4 areas. The first area is, of course, your income, your career, your work. If it was perfect, if you're earning the kind of money you wanted, doing what you wanted to do with the people you wanted to do it, what would it look like 5 years from now, and how would it be different from today? The same thing we say is with your relationships and your family. If your family life and lifestyle was perfect, how would it be different from today? I just spoke to somebody who asked this question. He was really shocked because he found that he was working 12-hour days. He was seeing his kids once or twice a week. His wife was frustrated and irritated. He'd come home late at night and he'd watch television. And he realized, the reason I'm trying to be successful is so I can provide a good life for my family. And here I am ignoring my family. So he began to idealize and say, if my family life was perfect, what would it look like? He said, I would have dinner with my family every night. And so he changed his schedule, so he got his work done, and he would have dinner with his family every night. And then he would play with his children, and then he'd put them to bed, and then he would work later in the evening, and then go to bed at a reasonable time. It transformed his family life completely. And so, but if you don't think about these things, you'll just go on the same way forever, doing what you're doing. Ask if your health was perfect, how would it be different? And finally, if your financial situation was perfect in every way, how would it be different from today? And then, what is the first thing you could do, the first step, right now, to make your future life perfect in every way? And whatever it is, just take the first step. I teach a program. It's an advanced coaching and mentoring program to business owners. And I tell them that if you come and work with me for 1 year, I will show you how to double your income and double your time off within 12 months. And then what I do is I front-end load the first day of coaching so that they double their income within 30 days. Everybody does it. It's very simple. I hand them out a spiral notebook, like a school notebook, and I say, what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to write down 10 goals that you'd like to accomplish in the next 12 months. Write them in the present tense as though they are already a reality. Not I will earn, but I earn. And then at the end of it, write by and have a due date. I earn this amount by this date. I weigh this number of kilos or pounds by this date. I achieve this goal by this date. Now, when you write it down, you engage in what is called a psychoneuromotor activity, which is a 50-cent word, as we say. It's a big word. But what it means is that you see it when you're writing it, you sub-vocalize when you are speaking, you kinesthetically write it, and by doing the handwriting, you actually program it into the hard drive of your subconscious mind. And I've had people do this exercise once, And a year later, they found that list of goals, and they were astonished to find that 8 of the 10 goals had been achieved. I spoke to a gentleman recently, remarkable story. He said, after he had gone through my seminar, he heard me say, write down 101 goals that you want to accomplish in your lifetime. Well, he was about 24. He was struggling. He was poor. He had a used car, no money, unmarried, single, so on. So he went home that weekend. He got a spiral notebook. He wrote down 101 goals. Now, 12 years later, I'm coming back to the same city, Atlanta, Georgia. And so he came to my seminar, and he said, I have to talk to you. He said, because 2 weeks ago, I was going through my papers, and I found that notebook. And I said, there's that notebook I wrote so many years ago. And he took it out, and he said, I wonder how I did. And so he began looking, and he took out a pen, and he began ticking off the 101 goals. So, yes, I achieved that, and I achieved that, and I achieved that. He said, Brian, and he started to cry. He started to shake. He said, Brian, I had achieved all 101 goals in 12 years. One of my goals was to marry a beautiful woman, which I did. To have children, which I did. To start my own business, which I did. To become a millionaire, which I am today. To own a new Mercedes, which I have. To put my children in private schools, which I did. To travel around the world, to learn a language, to sing a song, to learn to speak. He said it was unbelievable. He said, not 100. 101 goals had been achieved in 12 years. He said it was overwhelming to him. He could not believe it because I had told him, if you write them down, it's like programming them into your subconscious mind, then begin to work 24 hours a day while you're doing other things.